But we have a situation, Much, where there is mistrust between the private sector and government. There is the them and us attitude. At a time when we really need to be working together to rebuild back better, how do we get rid of that mistrust and realize that we are one family?
Yeah, I think we need to have a candid and constructive dialogue, between the corporate and professional sectors on one hand, and government. There's been this us and them attitude because people in the corporate and professional sectors have tended to be intellectually arrogant, if I can put it that way, for want of a better term. They tend to look down on politicians. And politicians have a lot of courage, and that courage manifests itself in them lifting their hands up and making themselves available for election. Whereas most of us tend to shy away from throwing our hats in the ring, and as a result, we're always complaining about the caliber of councillors and legislators that we have, and yet we haven't got the guts to get in there and make sure that we pay back to the country what we've gained so much from the country. I mean, that reminds me of a very sobering and humbling.
I've lost you, Much. I've lost you. Something has happened with your volume.
First, to get to know more about the councillors that elected me. I had.
Sorry, can I ask you to start with the problem with the internet? It broke. If you could just start that thought, please.
Right. I was going to say that in the course of bridging these gaps that exist, between us and the key players in government, we need to make sure that we cultivate new and meaningful relationships, which are anchored on the acceptance that both business and government are endowed with different but complementary strengths,
right,
which must be galvanized and harnessed for the benefit of the country.
Right.
And as I said earlier, the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic has provided us with a glorious opportunity, as the business and professional sectors and government, to cast aside our differences and work together in the national interest. In fact, the international experience, Trevor, has shown us that countries which have attained a degree of success are those which have managed successfully the convergence between business and government in a strategic and sustainable way. Now, this reminds me of quite a humbling experience that I went through soon after I found myself as mayor of Harare, because I was elected by the 46 councillors who represented the 46 wards. The 45 of those councillors were MDC, and one solitary councillor from Hopley represented ZANU-PF. And so one of the first things I felt I needed to do was to have a one-on-one with each of those councillors, just to find out what their respective claims to fame were, what their fortes were, so that I can slot them into the appropriate committees. We had 8 of them. And this particular councillor for Ward 4 Maverick taught me an unforgettable lesson. It was his turn to come for the interview with the mayor, and he rocks up in the mayor's parlor wearing a Man U anorak. And I said to him, Honorable Councillor, you are not going to come to town house on official business and also a meeting with me dressed like that. And he said, Mayor, I don't know what your problem is. I was democratically elected by the people in Bahrain. You have no constituency. We elected you, so you're not going to tell me what to do. I will come to these meetings and make my contribution as I see fit. And then this particular councillor and I won't mention names because it might embarrass, but his main claim to fame is that he was a driver, or rather he'd been a driver and bodyguard to mutual friends of ours, Trevor, but he had the guts when March 2008 came, and he lifted his hand up and got elected. But the long and short of this is that I had to sit back and think and reflect that I've got to find a way of working with this council. And it's true that he's got a constituents out there, and I haven't. But and I'm pleased to say that I facilitated quite a whole lot of things, including a month's exchange visit by him and 3 others to Munich, which is one of the wealthiest and well-run cities in the world. And by the time we finished, we'd become, a strong allies. And he went on to serve another 5 years, I think, with my successor. And so those are the kind of things that we need to contend with. We need to humble ourselves, especially those of us that have had the good fortune of going to school and coming out with all sorts of fancy degrees from this, that, and the other university. That delivering services to the targeted beneficiaries is a different ballgame altogether. You need to actually talk to them and appreciate what their problems are and address those problems.